All right. I am going to make the most of our time here. Just give me a second to pull things up, and then I will kick us off. Perfect. All right. Amazing. Okay. Hello, everyone. Like I said, happy Monday. Hope you all are doing well. I appreciate you spending a little bit of your time today with us. Super excited to share a little bit about our MN Cup 2026 season and give a nice spotlight to some of our alumni from last year who have some really great tips and tricks and some experience to share with you all today. My name is Kaylin Oliver. I'm the director for Minnesota Cup. So I am here as a resource, and I will what we're going to do today is I will give a more broad overview of the program and what the application looks like, as our applications are open right now. And then we will spend the majority of our time hearing from our alumni panel and actually giving you all a chance to ask both me and them some questions about the experience and anything else that might be helpful as you work on your application. So we'll go ahead and share my screen here. Let's see. You think I would get better at Zoom after we've been doing it for this long? But all right, can I just get a thumbs up that somebody can see my screen? Amazing. Let me see the whole thing here, and then we'll do this. And just a quick note, I am recording, so if anybody would like to turn their camera off for that, that is totally okay. But I will send this video out to those that weren't able to make it. So that helps everyone. Okay, let's jump in here. So as I said, my name is Kaylin Oliver. I'm the director of Minnesota Cup. I'm going to provide a little bit of an overview for you here. So we will start off with just a little bit of background. Minnesota Cup is the largest statewide startup competition in the nation. And we have actually been around since 2005. So this program was started by two serial entrepreneurs and alumni of the University of Minnesota, Scott Lippman and Dan Mallon. They had exited a company and were kind of reflecting on the lack of support for entrepreneurs and those that were pursuing innovation and early stage startup opportunities here in Minnesota. So they started a program called Minnesota Cup that actually was pretty much them hijacking what was then a student business plan competition. So they took that and they said, why can't we offer this type of support to everyone in the state? And that is what we do now today. So this is an annual startup competition. What we are doing is we are basically trying to identify some of those core pillars of support that you all need as early stage founders who are looking to scale, pursue investment opportunities, and really just continue to grow. So we provide annually seed funding, mentorship opportunities, and a lot of networking, publicity, and pitching opportunities as well. I'll dive into kind of what that looks like throughout the program, throughout this presentation here. So as I said, we started in 2005, and since then we've had a really great impact here in Minnesota in supporting early stage entrepreneurs. We've been able to work with about 30,000 of Minnesota's entrepreneurs and innovators. Our program has given away about $6.2 million in cash prizes. All of our cash prize money is non-dilutive, which means that we take no equity. It's no strings attached. It's yours to do with what you need as you continue to grow your business. And the coolest part of this story over the past 22 years now is all of those folks that have come through the program that we've awarded this money to have actually gone on to continue to raise about $1.1 billion to continue growing their companies and really help drive innovation and the economy here in Minnesota, which is really awesome. There's a couple of fun logos to flash on the screen that you may recognize. The key story I like to tell here is that we are an industry agnostic program. So we are seeing folks that are coming through with 75F is a clean energy company. We have Johnny Pops, which you might recognize from popsicles at Costco, Rebiotics and Carrot Health as life science companies, Busy Baby is a consumer product company. So we are looking at a really broad spectrum of types of companies, which you will also see as we hear from our alumni panel here today. All right, so how does this program actually work? The very first step is the step that we are in right now. You are going to complete a free application. When we are looking for applicants, there are two primary pieces of criteria that you need to meet. You need to be Minnesota-based, and you need to have less than $1 million in annual revenue. Beyond that, we are looking across stages, across, like I said, industries, types of companies. Those are the only criteria that we're looking for. And as you're diving into the application, I want to talk a little bit about what that looks like. So when you open your application for the first time, and applications are open right now, I'll send the link in the chat in a little bit. One of the first questions you're going to have to answer is which division you want to compete in. Basically, what we've done over the past 22 years is develop this competition into 9 what I call mini competitions. So when you apply, you're going to kind of reflect on the type of company, the industry that you're in, what you are working on, and self-select into one of these 9 industry divisions. 2 caveats there. Our youth division is for anybody 18 and under, and our student division is for undergrad and graduate students. The rest of them are industry specific. So if you are working on a medical device, likely you're going to fit into our life science and health IT company or division. If you are a nonprofit, probably that's impact ventures. Food and ag are those CPG companies or ag tech. So you're going to see it's fairly easy to sort yourself, but as you're going through, if you struggle between 2 of the divisions, you are welcome to reach out to our team and we can provide a little bit of support. But at the end of the day, this is your decision to figure out where you fit best. The rest of the application, and actually, yes, feel free to throw questions in the chat. My colleague Malik will try to jump in and answer some, and we'll answer them at the end as well. So the rest of the application is really 3 core parts and questions. The very first question you're going to have to answer is to tell us about the opportunity of your product or service. When I say opportunity, I really mean 2 different things. The first one is the market opportunity. How large is the market segment that you are hoping to serve? What's the revenue potential here? How large, generally in kind of financial terms, is that opportunity? The other half of that question is really getting into the innovation behind what you are doing. How is this something that really hasn't been done before? How is it unique in the market? Maybe solving a problem that either has not been solved before, or you're solving it in a way that is better, faster, stronger, etc. So really getting into that unique value proposition that you're offering. And the opportunity piece of the application when our judges go to review is weighted at 50%. So this is the most crucial part of your application. The second question you're going to have to answer is your plan. This is the more nitty-gritty details on how you're going to take that really amazing opportunity you've identified and execute on it. Your sales channels, your revenue model, all of the business model pieces of actually putting this plan into action. And that's worth 25% of your score. The last 25%, and this is a section that looks very, very different across industries, across companies and stages, is your progress. This can look, like I said, very different. One of the main things that we want to see here is that you are just taking steps. Because we have no minimum stage for this competition, this can be as simple as you have gone out and talked to customers and you're getting validation that there is a willingness to pay or an interest in the product or service that you are offering. Really starting with that customer validation and customer discovery is pretty critical here. But this can also be that you've started making revenue, you've started selling, you have investors that are interested. This can look very different and will look very different for everybody. But another exciting thing you can talk about in your progress stage or your project progress section, especially if you're earlier stage, is what does the future hold? What are the next steps you're going to take over the next 6 months, the next year, to tell the judges what you're thinking about, even if you're early on in your progress here. And that is the last 25% of the score. We keep the application very condensed, and it's really no more than about 1,600 words total for each of those 3 sections. You have a 500-word limit. So I want to make it as easy and accessible as possible for all of you to complete. All right, so you've submitted your application. What is next? What we do is we have about 150 to 160 volunteer judges from the community every year. These are folks that work in corporate, they're entrepreneurs themselves, they're alumni of this program that have expertises in various areas, and we assign them to a particular division where their experience is going to be most relevant. They are going to go through, review your applications based on our criteria that I mentioned, and they are going to take in each of these divisions the top 10 companies that really stand out against all of those criteria. And those companies will move forward into our semifinalist round. I want to note, even though we can only take 90 companies total every year, one of the things that our team works really hard to do is to make sure that everybody that applies is going to get some feedback from us and from our judges. Whether you use that feedback to continue working on your company just generally as you move forward, or you use it as feedback to apply again next year, that is totally up to you, but we want to make sure that you're getting feedback and resources out of this program, even if you're not making it to that semifinalist stage. I tell everybody there's really no harm in applying because one, you're getting feedback, and two, the application can be a really helpful tool in getting some of those initial thoughts, especially in the early stage, down pen to paper, and really having to work through some of those business plan thoughts that you have. So those 90 companies that are selected as our semifinalists, they are going to go through really the core of our program over the course of the summer. We'll announce the semifinalists. Everybody will hear back from the application period on May 18th. And then these 90 teams get a couple of benefits. They are going to be matched with our 2 expert mentors. So we have about 100 mentors that come through from the community, varying expertises from sales to medical devices to VC, anything that you might need to support. You're able to be matched with 2 of those mentors to provide general business support and help you along the way. We have some education sessions. We'll bring in some judges to give their expertise and feedback. You'll get feedback from your application and the rest of your materials as you go through the competition, helping provide some additional foundational support there. A lot of publicity opportunities to pitch in front of crowds, to really get your name out there and your idea out there in the community and in the ecosystem. And then at the same time through this program, over the course of the summer, our semifinalists are developing some key materials, not just for the Minnesota Cup competition, but for your business in general and things that you'll need. You'll be working on a 2-page executive summary of your business plan, a 15-slide pitch deck, and a 1-minute marketing video. And these are the materials that our judges use to narrow 90 companies down to the top 27, our finalists. Those 27 have the chance at the end of August to come in person to the university campus and pitch to our judges. And that is how we select our 1 division winner from each of our divisions. Which leads me into what is always the carrot on the stick for this competition, and that is our funding. As I mentioned, we do only non-dilutive funding. That means we take no equity. There's no strings attached to these checks. At the end of the day, every season we give away about $400,000 that gets split among 20 to 25 teams, depending on the season. And to start kind of breaking down what that prize money looks like, each of those 9 divisional winners will take home $25,000. The grand prize winner will take those 9 division winners, and now they go head to head in the final round of the competition. They'll pitch to a new set of judges for one of them to be selected as our grand prize winner for the whole competition. They'll take home another $50,000 on top of that existing division winner prize. The runner-up, the second place of the whole competition, will take home about $15,000 on top of it. And then we've got about $125,000 in dedicated prizes, the top women-led company, the top Black Indigenous people of color company, and the top Greater Minnesota company are a couple of them. And then we've got some fun audience favorite pitch prizes throughout the competition as well. So all of that adds up to about $400,000, which is a very exciting seed funding opportunity. So really my overall consensus here is, like I said, this is an annual startup competition. We are really trying to hit those kind of core pillars of what you need in terms of support as you continue to move on. I encourage everyone to apply, and I know our panelists will do the same, but really just here to support you all. And everything, as I really love to mention, is completely free. It's free to apply. It's free to participate. This is a program that is really just designed to provide as much support as possible to as many entrepreneurs in Minnesota as possible. So we kind of drive that innovative spirit forward. So, and with that, I'll say this several times, but our applications are actually open right now, as I'm sure many of you know, but they were open until April 3rd. So you've got a little under 3 weeks left to continue to work on those applications. You can, once you open one, save it, come back to it as many times as you need to before submitting by 11:59 on April 3rd. All right. So I'm very excited. I'm going to have my panelists introduce themselves. I'm going to stop sharing screen in a second here, but a really great group of folks here today representing a couple of our different divisions. Shannon from the Commons was one of our Impact Ventures division winners last year. Rayan was a runner-up, our second place in the Education and Training division with Chad LPO. And then Eugene and Spinergy from our Energy, Clean Tech, and Water division actually took second place in the whole competition as our grand prize runner-up last year. So I am going to, stop sharing my screen and also take the spotlight off myself so we can see everybody. And And I am going to have us jump into this panel. As I said, please feel free to keep throwing questions in the chat, and we'll have some time for some more open-ended questions too, but we'll keep answering those. So I'm going to have us start by having each of my panelists just give a brief intro of yourself, give us a little pitch about what your company is, what you're working on, and then kind of your, I guess I spoiled a little bit of your MN Cup experience, but the division you are in and your placement from last year as well. I'm going to start. Shannon, you are first on my screen, so I'm going to start with you.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you so much. Hi, everyone. Shannon Godfrey here, one of the co-founders of The Commons. We were the Impact Ventures division winner, which was really phenomenal. And what The Commons is doing is we're supporting our schools in removing phone distractions during the school day, not by taking phones away from our students, but providing some guardrails to helping them learn self-regulation and impulse control to better manage their phone, while also supporting some support tools for our administrative team so teachers aren't becoming phone police like they are day to day. So that's a little bit about what we are doing. And just we had, I think, all in all, and I know we'll get into some of these questions, but our experience with the Minnesota Cup was just extremely supportive and helpful for our business. At the same time that we were building the Commons, we were actively fundraising as well. So there was just a lot of structure, I would say, the Minnesota Cup provided us on resources we needed to create and ways to think about it that we needed for the market in general. So it was really perfect timing. And I would say the mentorship, the community connections, and kind of like ironing out some of the kinks were probably the three items that we got at the time that we needed it most on building our business, which was just something that was incredible for us on timing and just, launching the Commons overall. So excited to be here. Thank you.
Thank you, Shannon. All right, Ryan, you're next on my screen.
Super nice to meet you, everyone. My name is Ryan Inostroza. I was in the Education and Training Division now in the last cohort. My company is Charter PO. I have a co-founder. He's an AI engineer, and I'm a teacher. We both created this platform. It's an all-in-one system where teachers can use artificial intelligence and create the resources and materials they need to use every single day, but also they get trained so they can have certificates and they can develop their professional skills to become better teachers. So it's a little bit of everything. We are based in Minnesota, but we offer our services to Latin America, and now we are hoping to jump into the US. And it's very interesting because I was part of the audience in 2024. And when I went to see MN Cup, I felt like everything was so huge and incredible. And you feel scared. You are like, I will never be able to be there. I will never fit into this group of incredible companies. But we did the application, we got selected, and I was also awarded the Founder of Color. So that was an extra gift that I wasn't expecting. So there are a lot of things that you can get out of MN Cup, especially as Shannon was saying, the documents. The materials that you have to create are going to be the same documents that you will have to show when you are trying to get to raise some funding. And that was the biggest win for me, for sure.
Amazing. All right, Eugene, I'm going to turn it over to you too.
Hey there, everybody. I apologize for any background noise. I'm on the move for the call right now. But Eugene Alvey, founder and CEO at Swinergy, and we've developed technology that lets us convert livestock waste into renewable natural gas. Fun fact, I actually tried to apply to the Minnesota Cup 2 years ago, but wasn't paying attention to the date the application was due, and like the application closed on me. So I missed it that year, and then we went through this past year. It was an awesome experience. We can draw a straight line from being runner up in the Minnesota Cup to getting $1 million angel investment within 2 months of that because of an article that the Twin Cities Business Journal did about the Minnesota Cup, and then an email from the investor who read that article wanting to learn more about Synergy. So it's an incredible opportunity, and I encourage everybody who's eligible to sign up and do it.
I love it. Thanks, Eugene. All right. So my first kind of question, and I think each of you really teased this already, but broadly, what do you think was your biggest takeaway from going through the Minnesota Cup program last year? Shannon, I'll turn it back to you.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I think I think the biggest takeaway, again, because we were in the middle of being able to raise our funds and get our product live, the biggest takeaway I would say is just the structure and the resources that we needed to create just went hand in hand with everything that we needed in order to get our business up and running. So there's a variety of different components that came in between, right? Our mentors, because of that, we were really strategic with finding folks that maybe had strengths that were our weaknesses to help us get through those documents. At the same time, ironing out some of those kinks. The judges' feedback in all parts of the application process was incredible. Things that we thought was just so obvious in how we were writing it and what we were saying and what we were putting on our website. Every judge would say, "Oh, great, but who's paying for this?" We're like, "How is that not obvious?" And we thought it was. And so after getting that feedback, it was these aha moments, like again, ironing out those kinks. It's like it all folded together where the mentorship, the ironing out the kinks, and being able to go through some of these, dry runs as you're building it, I guess, is what helped us create just more sustainable resources, the what we were submitting in order to get to the next level through the Min Cup, like everything at one time, I would say was just the so incredible for us while building our business at the same time. And that to me was just like it just gave us some of the clarity and structure and things that we needed that, sometimes as a founder, you're on your own and there's so many things you can do on any given day. And it was nice just to have that roadmap of like, focus on this right now. And we always thought about it in a way of, is this specific to check a box for Minnesota Cup application, or is this something that we can utilize externally? And that allowed us to really think differently in how we were building that out. And then again, those resources were used the next week, or someone would come into our inbox saying, "Do you have an executive summary?" And we'd be able to give it to them. So I think all in all, I know it's probably 10 different things, but it was just, they all kind of flow together and they like intertwine in just an incredible way to really help you build your business.
Amazing. Shannon touched on one of my favorite pieces of advice for the application period. When you are writing your application, once you feel confident in it, I highly, highly encourage you to have somebody that has no idea what you're doing, what you are working on, as is not part of your industry, to read through it, because that is going to kind of simulate that judge experience that they have, because they can't be in your head. Things that seem common sense to you, the judges might not know. So I always encourage folks to have somebody kind of outside of your head down headspace take a look at that application, ask any questions they have. So thank you, Shannon. That was wonderful. All right, Rand, up to you. Biggest takeaway.
There are two documents that you have to create that will be extremely, extremely valuable. And whenever you talk about your company, you will always go back to those documents. So everyone can explain what your company is about. Everyone can say, yeah, I'm going to target teachers. Those are going to be my clients. And this is how the process is going to go. Sounds beautiful. But when you have a group of people, and as you just both said, you need to be able to communicate your ideas in a way where every single person in the room understands what you are talking about. So when we go back to the executive summary that you will have to create, it's no more than 2 pages. You will have to analyze the target market. And yeah, every single teacher can use my platform. No, that is not realistic. First, what country or what community, what city you're going to be focusing. Okay, perfect. Then if we want to have a big investor, you need to have a bigger market. What's that bigger market look like? Are we talking about millions of dollars, billions of dollars? Those are the numbers that they are looking at. Also, who are your competitors? Have you studied them? Because here's the tricky part. You are going to get mentors, and those mentors are going to study your company. So when they show up to the meeting with you, they are going to ask you, okay, what do you know about your competitors? Oh, no, I know that this is a big company. Impossible to win. So then why are you doing this? So you need to find a purpose to every single thing that you have. And in that executive summary, you will have to briefly describe your competitors, but in those little words, few words that you are using, you have to prove that you understand their system, that you understand their product, and why are you better than them? What are you offering that's different? What's your advantage? And also the pitch deck. So before coming to MN Cup, I always went to those startup network events, and I always gave a like a 1 minute introduction presentation on what my company was about. So they will teach you on how to make it so you are successful. It's not just the product that you are building, it's you as a founder. Why should I trust you? Why should I invest 500,000 in your company? So building a pitch that can fit in a 1 minute presentation, but also 5 minutes and 20 minutes. That was the craziest part to me. And then now I feel like I have it memorized in my head. So whenever people ask me about Chatterpio, I'm like, Chatterpio is that's what you want. Because whenever you have the opportunity to introduce your company, you want to go back to your pitch. So the executive summary and having my pitch ready every time when I'm building, when I'm trying to build my network, when I'm trying to meet other founders, I always go back to the executive summary and the pitch deck that I created for MN Cup. I always change it depending on the audience that I will have, but that will be your foundation, and those resources are extremely valuable.
Amazing. Another hint that I like that you touched on, Rand, is the competitor piece. I think sometimes people are a little shy, they shy away from talking about competitors because they think it might demonstrate a disadvantage. But my mindset is that talking about your competitors is such an amazing opportunity to dive deeper into your advantage and your differentiation. It gives you just one more chance to talk about that unique value proposition and how you stand out in the market. So if you don't talk about the competitors, the judges are going to know that you've got competitors and they're going to figure it out on their own. So might as well own it, right? All right, Eugene, what do you think was your biggest takeaway from Minnesota Cup?
Yeah, I just want to jump on your comment there too,
Yeah,
Kaylin, that like if you don't acknowledge competitors, you are also signaling to the judges that you don't know your market. So like big red flag there. And I don't want to be too much of a broken record on Shannon's points either. So the way I would phrase it is I think every gate or round of the Minnesota Cup has a different value to you as a founder, right? If you don't make it past the first round, like there's valuable information in that you probably need to rethink, excuse me, or you need to rethink some core elements of your business because like these judges they're solid, and I hope you make it to the next round, and making it through the first round of the Minnesota Cup should feel good. And you shouldn't feel like, oh, you don't have a possible company if you get rejected in the first round, like come back around again. But you should ask the questions on like, why did I not make it through this round? And with each successive round, you get judge feedback. And Shannon was making this point on like making sure you're addressing the things that the judges want to see. Something we noticed after 2 rounds of judge feedback before going into the finals is there were 2 questions that had been asked by different judges. I don't know who the judges were, but judges in both rounds. So we had 2 repeat questions, and they were things that were so obvious to us as a team that we didn't even think it was worth mentioning. And then it was like, okay, we clearly haven't talked about this enough for this to make sense. And it's very straightforward. It was, 10 seconds of adjustment in the pitch to explain something real quick. That's just so obvious and an assumption to us. We didn't mention it, but it was a very important part of our business. So we clearly needed to talk about it more. And so I would also add that I think the Minnesota Cup process is designed very well. And this is completely stealing Shannon's words from her, essentially, that each thing the Minnesota Cup asks you to do is a product that you should have anyways as a founder. So treat it and use it not just for the Minnesota Cup, but for all the other things you're doing in the process of building your business, whether it's your pitches or developing your business plan and things like that.
thank you, Eugene. That's perfect. All right. The next question I have is I'd love for you each to just briefly talk about some of the connections that you were able to make through the program, whether that's mentors or other, investor connections like Eugene mentioned earlier. Just a quick kind of highlight on maybe what was your best connection that you made. Shannon, I'm going to pass it off to you again.
Yeah, perfect. We met incredible people along the way. I think just the other businesses were out there was super fabulous. And, it's sometimes a very lonely world as a founder, and having other folks that are going through the highs and lows with you at the same time. It was just really phenomenal meeting just this great group of people and local mentorship through that. Also within that, there's a couple of opportunities, from as you're going through the stages where you're pitching to the public or you're having kind of like happy hour gathering times to be able to interact with folks. And that led us to meeting investors that came in, some angel investors that were in the tech space that are local in the community. It led us to meeting to folks that were introducing us to our customer base, which is other school leaders that we got to get introduced to. So it helped our revenue engine that we're building, which was great. Our taxes are getting filed by someone that we met through the Minnesota Cup division. That is an area that we didn't know much about and we knew we needed to do, and met someone that introduced us to someone, and just that person has been phenomenal, connecting us with other folks as well, which has been great. And then I would say our mentorship. I mean, both of our mentors were really great, but we specialized. We knew that for us as a business where we were trying to get pilot schools coming on board with us. And as soon as we measured their impact, we wanted to go big on our go-to-market strategy. And so go-to-market was an area that we wanted more expertise in. And for our mentorship that we got to select, we really identified someone that was strong in that realm. And I will say that person as a mentor was so fabulous. I think we might have abused our power with them on how frequently we met with them and asked for help and feedback and looking at our website copy and this, that, and the other. And even to this day, he's constantly sharing information about us, engaging with us through LinkedIn, and just has been rooting us through the entire process. So, I mean, it's incredible. We've met so many fabulous people, let alone just walking into a random room. And now it's like, oh, I've heard of your company and I see you, and you're building this smaller community in this, entrepreneurship space has been really incredible as well.
I love it. Thanks, Shannon. All right, Ryan, what about you?
No, super. We also found our accountant. So everyone,
I
we
love
will
it.
always find a struggle when we have to file our taxes because it's so different and specific. But everyone who is part of this network around MN Cup, everyone is willing to help, and everyone knows someone who could help you. Everyone is always offering their help. So we have our accountant through MN Cup. Also, we have our lawyer. So something that we learned through MN Cup and through talking to different founders is that for us, we were an LLC, and now we wanted to go bigger, and we wanted to be able to raise money and have investors from other states. Everyone kept telling us you have to be a Delaware C Corp. It has to be a C Corp instead of an LLC. We had no idea how to do it, but then we found a lawyer, and he is actually one of the mentors at MainCap, and also he helps a lot of startups on becoming a Delaware C Corp, very low price. And for him, it's just a service that he's helping startups become big one day. We also learned about another company, and they were part of MenCap last year. But you always keep in touch with everyone in this community. They have a company very similar to us, but we focus in education, and they focus on a different field. But we kind of use the same technology, the same structure behind the screen. So we partner with them whenever they have a problem, whenever they run into an issue. They come to us. When we have questions, we go to them. So it's a community, and you will never feel lonely again. Even if you have a one-person company, if it's just you, you are going to have so many people helping you. For every single thing that you might need, there is someone in the room. There is someone who knows another person who can help you. So definitely having my lawyer, having my accountant, starting conversations with investors. That's always a good practice. You never know who you are going to find in the room. So always be open to say hi to everyone and learn about what people are building.
I love it. Amazing. Eugene, you want to close us out and talk about kind of some of the connections that Spinergy was able to make?
Yeah, absolutely. I guess I mentioned this at the beginning, but we got $1 million out of it, so that was pretty sweet and hard to beat. But the other one is because the Minnesota Cup's been around for a while and has had a lot of success stories, getting to know founders from prior years, we are not an unusual case in her regard. Like this is a pretty common thing to see happen. That you get a lot of fundraising activity after doing well in the Minnesota Cup. So that was great. And then the second one is because of the Minnesota Cup history of excellence, I would call it. People take the press that essentially comes out of the Minnesota Cup seriously in the Minnesota startup ecosystem, right? So we got access to a lot of resources and a lot of really helpful people through this press that the Minnesota Cup puts out, right? And when someone sees you're moving through the rounds of the Minnesota Cup, they understand, what the judges are like, who the judges are. And the judges are not pushovers. They're successful people in their own rights. And people put quite a lot of stock in their opinions, essentially, as judges. So that was another great asset.
Yeah. Thank you. All right. I have one more question, then we'll open it up for Q&A from the audience. I want you all to think back to when you were at this stage last year, you were applying for the program, and give one piece of advice for those that are on the call and listening that are thinking about applying. What would you want to have known back then that maybe you know now, or just a broad piece of advice for the application? Shannon, I'm going to start with you again.
Yes. I think to kind of piggyback on what Eugene was saying, at the time, it's like we just needed money and we were, looking at different grant programs that existed. And I think even with the Minnesota Cup, you read some of it and you're like, oh my gosh, can we handle doing all this while we're running this business as well? Like, is this the right thing for us to move forward? And from so many other smaller little grant one-off, things that we've applied for, and it's like this simple form, and then you never hear back, or they charge you these fees and all this stuff. It's like, I we knew to invest into the Minnesota Cup because other folks within the community had suggested it to us. But I think knowing, if I would have known how much to what Eugene was saying, like it's a really prestige competition, and not in the sense of like if you've never ran a business plan, if you've never done a pitch, like you're not going to be able to be successful in it. Like absolutely no. There's just not a lot of opportunities for us in this pre-seed pre-revenue, barely getting started, where we can make a big impact and be compared in that way to still make it the distance in other grant programs. So I think like we heard that, but you don't realize it until you're really in this program, like how much value it truly provided. And I think when just in general, it's like I always put my best foot forward. So when we did our application process, it was very much like, don't just fill it out for the sake of filling it out. Like take the pause, sleep on it, read it the next day, have someone else evaluate it. I mean, we put our best foot forward on extra links and bells and whistles and things that we can, we had some of these materials we were building for the fundraise realm, but it's like, man, if someone doesn't know this market, how can we point them to somewhere that can give them a resource to see that we're serious, explain it more than we can do in these little limited character and words that you have to put into the application. And so all in all, I mean, again, there's just so many phenomenal things, but I think understanding how great this competition was. I think even for so many of the founders, if you didn't get the grant money, what you got out of it is just so different than any other online grant application that I'd ever seen on being able to really give value and just really taking the time in every piece of artifact to build it with that in mind. Just helped us. And anyways, that to me is like the one thing I reflect on, like, I knew it, we put our best foot forward, but I just wish I would have known that even more, that like it truly was a huge opportunity, unlike what we saw elsewhere.
Thank you. That was very kind. Yeah, as Shannon mentioned, I kind of talked about the three core pieces of the application, but there is room to add financial projections, MVP photos, your website link. There's a lot of ways to kind of use the required pieces to entice the judges to click on additional links and spend some time learning more. So I encourage everybody to take a look at that and really try to make the most out of the space you get in the application for sure. Because it is limited, so you've got to be pretty concise and intentional. All right, Ryan, what do you think? Piece of advice.
It's very easy to get into the imposter syndrome. When you are going through the application, you are gonna think, I haven't made any money. I don't really have a product ready to be launched in the next few months. Don't let that stop you from applying, because this is the opportunity for you to work on what you have to work on. It doesn't have to be finished at all. Nothing, 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 nothing. When I was applying, I thought to myself, I don't have any experience in business. This is my first company, and I'm doing this in a different country. I'm not from here, I'm from Chile. Also, I make a lot of grammar mistakes whenever I have to give a presentation. How am I going to be doing this? I'm not qualified enough. Even though I did it, I thought for sure I wasn't going to get selected. But then when I got the results from the application that I was one of the companies selected out of so many, it's crazy the amount of companies that apply to this. They they are choosing your company for the potential that they can see, and that goes along with how excited you are to make this real. So don't let the imposter syndrome to stop you from applying. Just you go with the flow, do it. And even if you think you did everything wrong, sometimes that could surprise you because I thought that it was so basic compared to what other people were doing. I mean, there are companies that are saving lives. That is not something that that I was doing. But also try to connect with people. Last year when I went just as audience, I went with my LinkedIn profile and I was trying to connect to people because I wanted to learn. I had no idea what I was doing. I was so lost. And then I applied and I got in. And whenever I see another founder, I connect with them because I never know when I'm going to need them. And I'm not talking about people as products, but you will always need someone who can help you, support you, give you some advice. So connect with people, learn from each other, and be available. You're going to learn so much. This is definitely one of the biggest experiences as a human being I have experienced. And every single time you think that you are done with makeup, no, there's always something that will come to you just for participating and being in the community.
Thank you. I'll echo that kind of imposter syndrome. I think it's easy to think that you're too early, but I am looking at our stats right now, our little dashboard for those that have applied so far, and the vast majority are pre-revenue. So we are certainly a competition that is designed for folks that are at that early stage. So don't let that intimidate you by any means. All right, Eugene, close us out with one more piece of advice.
Yeah, absolutely. One, in applying, you have nothing to lose, but at the same time, take the application seriously, and it's not going to be a waste of time. That would be my advice.
That's perfect. Oh, that's what I would have said too. So I appreciate that. Um, Amazing. Well, thank you all. I want to actually just open it up if we've got some time for questions. Feel free to, these can be questions that are more logistics about the program for me, or if you want some advice and additional perspective from our panelists, this is a great time to ask them. You are welcome to either throw it in the chat and I'll read it off, or you are welcome to unmute if you would like. I'll give everyone a second to put their thinking caps on.
I want to add a comment
Mhm.
what Cheryl shared in the chat.
Yeah,
It's good to share screenshots or videos. Link anything you got. Even if you have an Instagram profile for your product, just with the following and one picture, share that. Um, Anything you have available online, share that with your with the application.
amazing. Yes, absolutely. Second that. Michael, I see your question. No strings attached. We literally, it's so there's when I say no strings attached, I mean it. We literally write you a check and then you get to decide what to do with it. And I'm pretty sure all of our folks on here that have gotten checks from me can attest to that. We of course keep in touch and follow up and want to see the progress that you're making, but we're not taking any equity or anything in that cash. Other
Hey,
question?
Kaylin, I've got to run. Thanks so much for having me, though.
No,
And
thank you so much for hopping on, Eugene. I really appreciate it.
if for some reason anyone had a follow-up question for me, Eugene@swinergy.com. I check my own email. I don't have an assistant, so I'll get back to you. But thanks a lot.
Thank
Have a
you
good
so
one.
much. Appreciate it. Other folks with questions? Um, all right. So Daniel, how would you differentiate presentation expectations for each round? I don't know, Shannon or Rand, you have some perspective you want to give at the different types of pitches that we had you all give?
Yeah, so the first one that you will have to give, it's a 1 minute pitch. Um, we didn't have slides, and I would recommend you to memorize it. Some people prefer to have their notes, but I think it's a good way for you to practice how it will look like in the future because you will have to pitch a few more times. So I would say, even if you are not sure if you are going to get into the program, write your pitch, go to some of online sources and see what people are doing, how they have done this before, and write your own. Everything will be not just about what you are saying, but how you are saying it. Are you looking at the audience? Are you moving around? Do you feel, it doesn't seem like you are nervous, or just try to be confident. And I would say there's no expectations other than show that you know what you are talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say again, like there is like that structure and guidelines, like as you go through it, it's like a shorter period to a longer period. What are some of the items that you want in? And then again, you can lean on your mentors as well. Almost every single one of the mentors like has done this before. And that's really great that we appreciated it. So they came in with other feedback for us. But I think that was the thing. It's like when it was a short consolidated version, it's like, is this slide going to support what I'm saying? If yes, like absolutely include it. And, you know, for us, it was focusing on a really impactful problem statement. How do we get people that know nothing about our industry, like how truly critical this is, and quantify it as best as you can? And so we finagled a way of like, okay, there is some research in here. And then we backtracked how often are students distracted on the classroom time? And then what does that equate into actual lost revenue for schools across the nation? So our like, you know, 90 minutes a day turned into hundreds of thousands of dollars per school across the nation every year. It's like we were able to amplify the problem so people saw how serious it was. So it was like focusing on the problem, focusing on that market, right? Like how big is this really? And then how do you explain to someone that knows nothing about your industry what exactly you're doing in a way that just like allows them to get it? And for us, that was how we were like, is it a visual aid that further supports that? Or is it just the talk track? So I think that was always our focus in the beginning days when it was much smaller. Problem, market, our solution, period. And then as it started to get bigger, it was like, how do we pull in examples and kind of go from there and listen to the structure that was made available for us? But I agree. It's like we memorized our speech. We practiced it over and over to a mirror to ourselves. We timed it and stayed within the timing, cut things that didn't matter. And I think putting in that extra energy, you could tell folks that were, you know, we're all nervous. Everyone's nervous doing this in front of folks, but I think it's a lot more obvious when someone's maybe doing it for the first or second time live, or reading from just a script, you know, reading it hands down. Like we still script it, but like we just memorized it as we went through. And that practice and rehearsal, I think anyone that did that in any of our pitches, like it, you could just completely tell compared to those that didn't.
Yeah, I think Daniel, just like very summary of both Shannon and Rand. So the very first pitch is a 1 minute pitch. It's basically your executive summary and your elevator pitch, just done to the public. The second one is a 3 minute pitch with 3 slides. It's very much what Shannon just mentioned, and your problem, your solution, your unique value proposition, your why behind your product or service. And then the very last one, that is the more kind of in-depth private 12-minute pitch that you're going to have to go really more into the nitty-gritty. We actually bring in someone who is does this for a living and coaches people on pitching it for startups for a living, who can give you a lot of expertise. And we've got some great examples that we run through as well. So that's kind of the broad overview of the presentation rounds. Hammer. So let's assume some of us won't make it past the first round, which is true. I wish I could take everyone, but unfortunately not. There are other resources. So one of the things that I do, in addition to the feedback that everybody gives, is when I send an email that says you are not making it forward, under that email is a link to at least 1 page document of kind of targeted resources. My favorite thing in the world is to slice and dice our applicants based on what types of resources, based on industry, geographic, where region that you are most appropriate for you. So I have a very lengthy list of resources. And if you're looking for something more urgently or need a different type of support, you are welcome to just reach out directly to me at any time. And I'm happy to help navigate the ecosystem that can be very intimidating and large. So we are just here as a resource, whether you're in the program or not. Happy to help you navigate. All right, Chelsea, this one is for our panelists here. So knowing what you know now, is there anything you would do differently in your application process? Whichever one of you wants to start or has thoughts.
I want to go back to the previous
Yeah.
question about the resources. So through MN Cup, I learned about two different organizations that help and support startups. One was Meta, META. I didn't know about them until people were talking about this organization surrounded by MN Cup. They help people of color succeed on with their ideas, with their startups. And the other one is MESA, MESA. They are a lot of engineers who volunteer to help your software, your solution. And I still work with both of those organizations, getting their feedback. I have mentors, and we meet once a month. And we have a goal. We have something that we wanna work on, and in every single meeting, we talk about those goals. And it's incredible because everyone has their own companies. A lot of them have sold their companies before, now have new companies, and they will help you. And a lot of their partners and mentors, they are also mentors for MN Cup. So you will have the opportunity to work with those organizations as well. Something I could have done differently in my application process. I think I focus a lot on the product instead of my own stories or the reason why I wanted to build this company. I think sharing and being very intentional about why you are important and why you are the person leading your company. I think I would have liked to do a better job at sharing more insights. This is your time to shine. So if you have ever won any prize, if you have ever done something that makes you different, I would always add that to my application. I don't know, Shannon, what you would like to add to that.
Yeah, I mean it's hard because it's like at the same time like what we did in our application worked, and so I like go back to right like I think being able to really make sure you're talking to people that do not understand what you're building, and be able to break it down in like no acronyms, no like buzzwords, like just very layman's terms, like how it works. Those links, we linked everything. We linked our data room, financial statements. Oh, we don't have one yet. Let's build it and add it to it so it looks, it's more robust on our plans. Like I mentioned, we had wireframes at the time. We were just getting started building our products. So we built a Loom video walking through the wireframes and explaining it and just took that extra mile. So it's like those things I would continue to do again. But agree with what you're saying. I think throughout the whole competition, when I reflect back, it's like, I don't know if it is imposter syndrome or just not giving yourself enough credit, but it's like, there's so many people that have ideas, but yet you're trying to establish a business and you're coming forward to actually be a part of this competition. Like show it off, toot your own horn, be able to really give clarity again to someone that knows nothing about you or your business, like why it's worth learning more and how this is impactful. And so I think the biggest things for me on my takeaway is probably later on in the competition. I think we would have thought differently, like, oh, new set of judges. We're no longer just presenting in our impact division, but a broader range. Like, how do we adjust our pitch for these different types of people? I think that's something that I reflect in. It's like, if I would have changed anything, it's that part of the process. Early on, I think we did anything and everything to just make sure people understood us. And the benefit was timing that we were also going to investors. So in order to get investors to open up their doors, we had to do some of that already, which I think was to our advantage in part of the application process. We weren't creating everything from scratch. We knew that they both went hand in hand. But yeah, so that's what I would say. Definitely toot your own horn, add the photos, add the videos, create something from scratch if you need to add in that extra link to give more context and information.
Yeah. I want to elaborate on something that Shannon said, and that is knowing your audience is very, very important in every scenario that you are talking about your company. So we try to make that as easy as possible for this round by having our list of judges on our website. So, like I said, the judges are sorted by division. Their backgrounds and their expertise areas are how we sort them, but they all still bring a very unique background. Even if they're in the high tech division, that can mean a lot of different things. So it can be super helpful to know who's in the division and who's actually reading your application. So you're welcome. I just threw the link in the chat to take a look. This can also be a helpful tool if you are in between two divisions and you're not sure which one will be a good fit. Feel free to take a look at this as well, and it can kind of provide a little validation on maybe who you would want to be reviewing your application based on their background, and that can help guide some folks. With that, I am actually going to close this out because we are running out of time, but I just want to make sure any other last minute quick questions before I do that. It's okay if not. Amazing. All right, so I'm going to just one more time throw our link in the chat to apply. So like I said, this application link is open. It's live right now. And you have until 11:59 on April 3rd to get this in. Just sent the link in the chat. If you run into any questions, comments, concerns, anything that you need help with, please do not hesitate to reach out to us. That is, I just threw our general email inbox in the chat. If you go to our website, we also have office hours that Malik and myself are hosting throughout the application period. So very happy to sit down and chat with you if you have any questions or need some additional support. Want to make this as easy as possible for everyone. So highly encourage you all to start an application, get working on that over the next 3 weeks. And thank you all so much for being here. And a huge, huge thank you to Shannon and Rand for being here, sharing your time and your expertise and insights with everybody. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. Good luck. And I will say, we probably also abused reaching out to you and your team on like just the silliest
No,
question. So, I mean, to everyone else, like take advantage if you're questioning it, like reach out and ask. They were fabulous at getting back to you and giving you details or pointing you in the right direction. So I just really appreciate it and good luck to everyone.
Yeah, I
thank
agree
you.
with that. I asked Kaylin during the process so many questions just because I needed some reassurance. I thought I was making mistakes all the time. She's like, no, everything is good. You are good. So go back
Very happy to
to
help.
their emails if you have any questions.
Yes, please don't hesitate to reach out. I appreciate you both. And thank you all so much for being here. And I can't wait to see all of your ideas and your submissions. Take care, everyone.
Bye.